How to Build a Multi-Billion-Dollar Business in Africa from Scratch by Strive Masiyiwa, compiled by Geoffrey Tengamba, being read to you by Arnold Rangakuramia. Chapter 13, Leadership for Senior Class. Being a leader is not confined to the president of a country. You are a leader once you are in charge of other people. You are a leader of your family. You are a leader even if you are supervising one person at work. I am therefore talking to leaders. I got from the Bible. Who told you? The two oldest questions ever asked are, where are you and who told you? These are the two questions that God asked Adam. Now, since I am talking to the senior class, you no doubt appreciate that God already knew where Adam was in terms of his physical location. So the first question had to do with his spiritual location. But we will leave that for another day. Who told you? But God already knew who Adam had been speaking to. So there is something else that he wants us to learn. The chief tent maker said, the things that were written aforetime were written for our learning. In other words, these things are there for you and I to extract life principles. So here is a principle which I personally have learned as I have meditated deeply on the question, who told you? Being a leader is not confined to the president of a country. You are a leader once you are in charge of other people. You are a leader of your family. You are a leader even if you are supervising one person at work. I am therefore talking to leaders. This question is as important today as when God first asked it of Adam. Who told you? It matters who you are listening to on any issue. It matters where you got the information from. If someone comes and tells you about something or someone, how do you deal with that question? Who told you is a big part of the leadership. The internet is a wonderful source of information, but having read something on the internet does not mean it is true. Newspapers are a great source of information, but that does not mean everything they say is true. The same can be said of television or radio. The chief tent maker said, take heed unto your doctrine, which means be careful what you believe. Do not be tossed about by every whim of doctrine. As a leader, you can destroy yourself and others if every time you read or hear something you rush off believing it without stopping to ask who told you. Luke, writing of the people of Berea, a small Greek town, called them noble because these were more noble. They received the word with all readiness of mind and searched the scriptures daily whether those things were so. If you read or hear something that you think is very important, search out the matter carefully. Check your sources carefully. Check out the facts carefully and methodically. If it concerns someone you know, ask them directly before making up your mind. This is good and noble. My interview with CNN a few years ago, when I was asked for one example of practical lessons on leadership, I got from the Bible. This is one of my favorite topics. I gave the example of Moses from a section of the Bible in the book of Exodus. I was amazed by the number of people who referred to it, including even government and business leaders from around the world. The advice given to Moses by his father-in-law, Jethro, is one of the greatest discussions on leadership ever penned. The irony is, whenever you read books of great leadership, you will find these principles repeated again and again. I lead an organization with operations, investments, and offices in more than 15 countries across Africa, in Europe and United States, Latin America, and New Zealand. These businesses employ thousands of people and they are continually expanding. Many people have often asked me, how am I able to manage all these businesses and at the same time do all the philanthropic activities that I am involved with? If you study carefully and put into practice lessons such as those which are contained in Exodus chapter 18, you will capture some of the most enduring leadership lessons, principles, and qualities that would enable you to run any organization no matter its size or complexity. Recruit competent and honest people. Exodus chapter 18 verse 21 in the King James says, moreover thou shalt provide out of all the people able men such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them. Exodus chapter 18 verse 21 in the Living Bible, it says, find some capable, godly, honest men who hate bribes and appoint them. In my life, I have had the privilege to meet with and discuss with some of the greatest leaders from politics, business, philanthropy, and even the church. And whenever the discussion has turned to effective leadership, there is always one thing that occupies 80% of a serious discussion: finding, attracting, and holding on to talented and skilled people. The big secret is out. Jethro advised Moses to appoint people such as are able. God himself told Moses to appoint Bezaleel because he was highly skilled as a craftsman. As a leader, you must have the ability to identify people such as are able. When I consider my own humble history as a business, I have always used our ability to attract talented and skilled people as one of the most important measures of progress and success. I will never forget the first time I managed to persuade a university-trained engineer to join us. I offered him the best car I could buy, better than I drove. I also paid him the highest salary, better than I got paid. We have technicians who are better paid than engineers. We have craftsmen who are better paid than some of our own managers. I have no problem with it. If you want to understand how this works, just consider a top-flight football team like Real Madrid or Manchester United. Do you know who is best paid? The most skilled player or the longest serving? The most skilled player or the manager? In our battle for growth and success in business, it basically boils down to recruiting and effectively deploying men and women that are competent and honest, from any tribe, gender, age, race, religion, and from anywhere in the world. In our business, I spend more time thinking about how we recruit and hold on to the best people at all levels than any other issue. You can have the greatest idea in the world, but if you do not have the skilled and honest people to run it, there will be no success. The volunteer prince. A very successful businessman was attending an exclusive function one evening and found himself in a conversation with a member of a very wealthy royal family who was also attending the function. The young prince, who would one day be king, asked the businessman about his work and his life. The businessman responded by talking passionately about his vision, his values, his work, and his philanthropic and charitable activities. The prince listened very intently and for a long time, asking many questions. The following day, the prince called the businessman with an unusual proposal. Do you think it would be possible for me to come and work for you for a few years as a volunteer? I believe this experience would be very good for the kingdom and me personally. I have a master's degree in engineering and marketing. Also, you would not have to pay me anything. And it doesn't matter what position you give me. Even to be your driver is fine. Realizing the prince was serious, the businessman was totally humbled as he thought to himself, how do you hire someone who does not need the job or the money? How do you motivate such a person? Now, imagine if in your approach to life you were like this prince. You have the skills to work anywhere for anyone that you want. If you offer your services, they will do anything to take you because of the value you bring. Your mere presence at an organization will transform it completely. You do not work for money. You will never have to complain because you can just leave. Vision, values, and integrity of the leader are the only motivations that will keep you in a place. How would you fare? Now imagine if you were this businessman. You have to approach those that come to you as volunteers rather than as employees. They can get a job anywhere in the world. They do not need any supervision. They know what to do even when you are not there. There is no promotion or position you can offer which would be good enough. They are happy with whatever position you give them. They will work very hard and not complain. They will not steal from you because it would be beneath them to do such a thing. There is no amount of money that you can use to get them to work for you. Your vision, your values, your integrity are the only means to recruit them, motivate them, and to keep them. That's all. How would you fare? The greatest organizations, whether they are businesses or not-for-profit, church ministries, government departments, are built by people who approach others as volunteer princes. The most successful employees in an organization are those who have the mindset of the volunteer prince. Bad habits die hard. Let's change the way we manage and unleash the volunteer prince and princess in our staff. During the colonial days, the people sent by the colonial governments were essentially what we call petty administrators who relied on command and control style of management, where they backed instructions at their subordinates who they saw as beneath them. This style of management spilled over into the private sector. Employees in such enterprises were not expected to be innovative, and they did not try. After independence, in many African countries, this management style was maintained, often inadvertently, as it was the only known method of management. It was particularly strong in countries where the military had spells of governance. Soldiers loved the command and control. Unfortunately, successive generations of African managers have taken this approach to management as best practice. In this environment, it is difficult to nurture the volunteer prince, as employees struggle to be motivated when they are managed like children. Staff are often subject to threats and shouting from bosses hiding behind closed doors. This is not management. If we were to unleash the full potential of Africa, we need to critically review the way we manage our public administration and enterprise sector. It will not only lead to higher levels of productivity, but it will lead to increased innovation and therefore competitiveness on the global stage. We cannot take the baton from China if we cannot match them in productivity and innovativeness. A lesson from Joshua on public service leadership. Joshua is the second leader of the children of Israel. He succeeded Moses, whom he had deputized for over 40 years. Joshua was a freedom fighter, a soldier, and a politician who dedicated his whole life to fighting for the freedom of his people. When they entered the promised land, it was not empty, and Joshua, then over 80, led a military campaign against the superior forces for more than 5 years. The book of Joshua spends several chapters giving a very detailed account of how Joshua systematically and meticulously divided the land to each and every tribe and family. Even within the tribes, he appointed land equitably to everyone. He even ensured that women could inherit their own land. That was 4,000 years ago. There are 2 leadership lessons that I want to share with you from this extraordinary leader. Joshua was from a tribe called Ephraim, and one day the leaders of this tribe went to see him, expecting him to do them a favor and appoint a bigger share to his own people. Joshua publicly rebuked them. He was not prepared to show favor to those from his own tribe. Joshua was a nation builder, and he knew that the moment you show favor to people from your own home area or tribe or race or even religion, there is no nation. The converse is also true when you are a citizen of your country. Go to those in public office seeking a favor on the basis of kinsmanship. Even if it's a job or a small contract, there is no nation. You become a destroyer of your nation. Remarkable. 4,000 years ago, this man set an example for us, which many of us, particularly in Africa, still struggle to appreciate. The promise of progress and success has not burned this brightly in Africa since the early days of independence, and yet we can blight it if we do not rid ourselves of tribalism. It is the twin evil of corruption. You are the generation. Let me repeat this. Remarkable. 4,000 years ago, this man set an example for us, which many of us, particularly in Africa, still struggle to appreciate. The promise of progress and success has not burned this brightly in Africa since the early days of independence. And yet, we can blight it if we do not rid ourselves of tribalism. It is the twin evil of corruption. You are the generation that can get rid of these evils. The second leadership lesson from Joshua comes from this remarkable verse of scripture. Joshua's inheritance. When they had made an end of dividing the land as an inheritance according to their borders, the children of Israel gave an inheritance among them to Joshua, son of Nun. Joshua chapter 19, verse 49. Joshua himself was only apportioned land when he had taken care of the needs of those for whom he had fought, not before. He did not keep the best for himself. He just asked for a small place to go and live out his life. Secondly, Joshua did not apportion even this small place to himself. He asked the people to apportion him his inheritance, because to do so himself would have been a conflict of interest. Now, this was 4,000 years ago. If you're thinking of serving through public office, this is good. But remember the lessons of Joshua. His life in public service was more than 50 years. Take a longer term view. There is a story about either the founder of Toyota or Honda, I cannot remember which, but this man ran a business making bicycles in the early 20th century. One day, he saw for the first time an American car being driven by a wealthy businessman. Rushing back to his little bicycle workshop, he gathered his small workforce and declared, "Before the end of this century, we shall be one of the largest car manufacturers in the world." And of course, by the end of the 20th century, the Japanese car company dominated the global car industry. Toyota, for instance, was the largest in the world. I have told you this story to show you an interesting leadership principle: the need to take a long-term view on whatever you are trying to build. It will teach you how to practice one of the key leadership qualities of true success, that is humility, and by its modesty. As an entrepreneur, whether social or business, try always to take a long-term view. Sometimes success comes very quickly as you start your venture. If it's business, you might find yourself making a lot of money just after a few months or even years of starting. This might encourage you to start spending money on your own needs or try to show people around how well you're doing. This is not wise. Personally, I have always taken a long-term view whenever I start something. I have shown you in previous posts how to take a methodical, well-calculated approach, how to develop a business plan, the need to find good people to work with you, the need to put everything back in the enterprise. When you have a long-term view, you will realize that it's a long journey you have started. Don't take money out of the business. Don't expand recklessly. Don't try and show off with a big house and expensive tastes. Steady as she goes. This is one of the reasons the Bible stresses the importance of humility as an important quality for good success. Modesty, which comes from humility, will make you very successful if you embrace it fully in your approach. Face up to your creditors with humility. Sometimes when you are running a business, things don't always work out the way you planned. You might find yourself having borrowed some money or taken some goods on credit. Then that payment you were expecting does not come through, and now you owe money. Lots of money. And the creditors begin to chase you for the money. What must you do? First of all, let me tell you something. There is no businessman or woman who has not had this experience. It might be with a supplier to your business or even a bank. It can happen to you whether you are small or big. The most important thing to always keep in mind when you are in this situation is not to lose sight of the fact that the other party once trusted you by giving you goods on credit or by giving you a loan. So don't get angry with them and say, "Why are you bothering me now? Didn't I say you will get it when I have it?" Then you cut off the phone or slam the door. Now that is wrong. How you respond to such a situation will not only test your character but will decide how successful or big you're going to be in future. Go to the biggest and most successful business persons anywhere in the world. They will tell you what I am going to tell you now. Number 1, always treat your creditors with the utmost respect for the trust they had in you. Number 2, be quick to apologize for the situation. Even if the other party is angry and abusive, do not retaliate. Number 3, do not default under any circumstances. And by this I mean that if you had an agreed payment date, the moment it becomes clear that you are not going to make that payment, go see them and tell them. Do this well in advance, giving the other party time to make alternative arrangements. Do everything you can to get them to agree to a new date. Never default by ignoring the dates. Number 4, when dealing with a creditor in these situations, always go and see them. Do not write and do not phone. Let them see you. Number 5, don't demonize your creditors or lenders. Work with creditors and bankers as partners. Always make them feel this way. It will do you wonders. If you think this is tough, then you are not yet tough enough for the big time. This is what it is about. Build a circle of trust around your business. In the early days of our business, we were often forced to pay our suppliers for everything in cash. At the same time, our key customer, the government, paid us usually after 30 days or more. This meant we had to borrow or buy materials for our projects. I knew that the larger, more established players in our industry did not have this problem because they had terms from the suppliers, the same ones who demanded cash from us. So we always had terrible liquidity problems in the business, and we were often chased around and even embarrassed by our creditors. Our bank manager was an elderly lady, and one day I sat down with her and explained our problem. She told me one of my largest suppliers was also a client of the bank. She brokered a meeting and told the supplier she could vouch for me as a trusted customer because I was, as she put it, frugal and sensible with money. The supplier agreed to give us a small credit limit. I promised to allow the supplier free access to information about everything I was doing. If I got a new contract, I would tell them immediately, and when we got paid or payment was late, I told them. We started small, but soon they increased the limit. Before long, we became their largest single customer. We had built a partnership based on a common interest. Over the years, as this supplier prospered through our relationship, he enthusiastically introduced me to other trusted suppliers. Sometimes, when the same suppliers heard about a major new project, they would call me and tell me to try and get it. It was good business for us all. We had built a circle of trust. That was when we were small, but those principles remained with me, and even now, we have similar relationships with global suppliers around the world, in places like China, India, and Sweden. There are suppliers of ours who have even recommended to governments to give us licenses. Your suppliers, the ones you may now call your creditors because you have not paid them, and even your banks, they are running businesses just like you. Invest in getting to know them. Make yourself a trustworthy partner to them. Success comes from creating a circle of trust between your business, your customers, your suppliers, and your lenders. The more people enter this circle of trust, the more you prosper and the more the nation itself prospers. This is part of the mystery of capital. And when the economy of your country enters a difficult time, as all countries do from time to time, it can be all that stands between you and bankruptcy, your circle of trust. End of chapter 13.